like to continue with some questions related to music and ask you, why don't you follow Coltrane?
Well, firstly, I don't think he would want me to follow. I don't think he wants anybody to follow him, particularly. I think he would want people to follow what he's doing in terms of not following other people, but following something deeper than that. The idea, of course, is musicians are as useful to musicians as, or especially useful to musicians, if they can help other musicians find their way into and through themselves. And I don't mean the ego self, but I mean the heart self, the soul self, the deeper self, see, the true self. We'll get to that. So if people are following what I'm doing, then my job then is to tell them to go deeper. Okay? Don't get caught up in appearances and social programs or cultural programs. Don't get lost in that. Don't think this is about culture and society. This is about spirituality, which is very, very deep, profound, and incomprehensible to a certain degree. So very few people have real access to this, which is what you're saying, what you're coming to terms with in your questioning here. And that is in regards to, let's say, musicians who find their individuality, who find their purpose, who have some access to their genius, have glimpses of that in their own case, which is totally natural. And the true order of things is to have access to what that means, the light within. See? But they seem to be doing everything to prevent that from happening. And that's really what needs to be discussed in some very specific terms for players, as well as artists, as well as human beings in any kind of field of endeavor. How are you standing in your own way? How are you obstructing your ability to become all that you can be? That seems to be the real question. When we're talking about, like, say, the music of John Coltrane, he wouldn't let anything stand in his way. And he had the, I guess you might say, the intention of doing what he had to do, finishing his purpose, right? Just to get his message out there. We're all the same in that way. We all have a message, we all want to get it out there. But we're not all as disposed to, let's say, the intensity, because we're not clear enough to have the intensity. That intensity comes from clearing away obstacles, so you have the full force of what it is you're being and what it is you need to do. We fragment ourselves so completely relative to relations and peeps and less important things. So we're saying that people don't know how to focus properly on what their goal is if they have a goal. If they're able to do that, see the end result, so to speak, know what they need to be or who they need to be, that might make it easier. Then it's a matter of clearing the way. And how badly do you want it determines how much you can clear away or afford to clear away or how much you're willing to clear away. Because the way is clear for everybody if you clear everything off the plate. If you clear the road, then you have a clear road. If you don't clear the road, you don't have a clear road. You have to clear it first. That's what it means to clear the path for yourself. You have to liberate yourself from your obstructions. But you need to be able to take a look properly at what those things are in your own case as individuals. Girlfriends, bad habits, confusion, doubt, uncertainty, insecurity, self-division, self-conflict, being hard on yourself, being down on yourself, or being down on others is just as much as being down on yourself. Stop being down, period. The only thing that holds you back is gravitational influence. Gravitational influence means bad attitude, a negative attitude, an unenlightened attitude. See, so once we get to these basic things, which spiritual practice, and by that I don't mean religious practice, I mean accessing highest level of creative intelligence that's possible for the individual to use. Now you ask your question.
So it would seem that most of the people who studied Coltrane's music ended up, at best, to use your term, profoundly gifted imitators.
They could be. They could be that. We have so much that's given to us. We have the potential of infinite intelligence. To use maybe a big word, cosmic word, infinite intelligence. It's huge. That means without measurement, boundless intelligence. If we would surrender to that in us, how do you get to that? That's really the question. Following a person, a musician, and just their art is not going to get you there. Because just their art is not getting them there. It's what they bring to their art, to elevate their art and elevate themselves, that enables them to take the steps along their progression, if they are progressing. A lot of people get into genres and they stay in those genres. Says who? Why? It's convenient, economically correct, easy. What is it? Limitation? Right? Agreeing to a comfort zone? Right. Noose around the neck, a gravity line? Is there real openness? Is there creative intelligence in that? Maybe up to a point. Maybe it's small use of creative intelligence. Even to be the best at your genre. That's not going into the universe. That's going into something that's well within your means to create for yourself and establish and hold on to. See, might be the easy way out. Because you have a mask, you have an occupation then. If you're talking about just an occupation, then we can't really talk about John Coltrane in that sense. Right? Or the warrior path. We say John Coltrane representing the warrior path relative to jazz. Because he could be arguably the most far out of the horn players for his period. Right? The most pioneering in a sense of things not done before, especially with a group work, with a band. So starting out with the bebop according to the history, and going through that, running through that, relative to, like say, Charlie Parker's contribution and taking the torch from that, and then going into what is a much harder domain, self-discovery and self-realization. It's much more intense domain, because you got to do that alone. So we're saying, to the degree the person is able to be alone and want to cultivate this whole process of recreating your life to be a creative spirit, accessing the highest levels of spiritual intelligence, means you have to do that alone. You have to be willing to do that alone. You have to be on good terms with yourself to do that. And if you're programmed to be influenced by Tom, Dick, and Harry and all the hip things that are out there, all you're looking for is hipness. Hipness is not real. What's hipness relative to somebody like John Coltrane? It's not about hipness, it's about truth, about deepness, profundity, see, fierceness, see? Boldness, heartness, wanting to get out, give everything he had, in a sense, blow his brains out. That means not hold anything back. Who's willing to be in a situation where that is what it is? And we're talking about individual karma, individual makeup, and if you just want to, sacrifice a little bit, and you think you're going to go a long way on a little bit, it's got to be some very high, powerful energy. That's the only way you're going to go far on a tiny little particle of what you're willing to give up or let go of, or sacrifice as such. See, surrender. See, so when we're talking about ordinary musicians, we're not sure we're talking about extreme, creators or people who are willing to be that. So if you already know you're not an extreme creator, then this conversation is not necessarily valid to you. Yeah. This is for people, if you're talking about the Coltrane type of progression, that kind of presence, then that means you have to be 100% into your music, to say the least, 100%. Most important thing in the world, beyond music, beyond ordinary music, beyond family, beyond culture, beyond everything, you have to be completely dedicated to that. And so if you are willing to give up everything for what it is you have to do, then I'd say you're on the path of creativity to some degree. Depends on who your leaders are. Not people you follow, but people you receive instruction from, give you some guidance, see, to make sure you don't destroy yourself in the process, because you can easily trip yourself up if you don't have your feet in the right positions along a certain path. Now you have your questions.
Yeah, I mean, that leads to a question about a friend of mine who recently passed, musician, very capable, talented guy, hardworking, dedicated, but a lot of demons. And so I guess my question is in relation to family karma for the musician or the person who aspires to develop their spiritual and creative intelligence.
Are you asking a question?
Yes, how does their family karma impact this path?
You are your family. You are your family. Everybody is their family. That could be good or bad. You have to assess that for yourself. See, so you then as an individual have to have the intelligence to recognize what of your family is useful to you and what isn't. And I came from a relatively drinking family, alcoholic family at that time. And drinking was sport, drinking was fun, drinking was the thing to do. And we know now in hindsight that drinking has limitations. And can take you, because it is a disinhibitive sort of agent, it can make you feel like you can do things that are outrageous and or tragic, and there's no consequence to it. Because of how you feel, what's released in you, your demons are released, so you can sort of execute people, execute yourself in the process. And so that kind of madness, sickness, there's a sickness. You want to make sure that nothing in the family is contributing to that kind of sickness in your case. And you have to be careful of that. Because everybody has their share of demons, but not everybody's taken out by the demons. See, these forces, these uncontrollable impulses, those are for you to control and not say you can't control them because they're uncontrollable impulses. That's an impression that you need to change. See? That's an interpretation, see, of impulses, impressions, right, karmas that are coming through, that it is your job as the person, as the individual in the body, you're the captain of your ship. You have to control those forces. See? You have to sort of be in charge of your chariot, so to speak. You got to ride the horse. You got to hold your horses. It's for you to control. And that's the difference between a man or a mouse, something in between that. A master. You have a mouse, a man, and then a master. So a man is struggling with that. Master's putting that to rest. The master turns around and says, oh yeah, all those problems, all those instincts, all those desires, all those needs, all those programs, all those urges, all those drives to the infinite. Say, no, that's fuel. That's what you have to use. Wood for the fire. You got to make it that way. And then you are able to control yourself and not go down the tubes as many beautiful people, potentially beautiful people, sort of fail to do. See? And that is to lift themselves up out of that they recognize as keeping them down, and pull themselves together to get their job done on earth, rather than go down as a wasted life. Now, you have to value your life properly. That's why it's good to be around the spiritual peeps who have a very, very profound value of life, the preciousness of life. And I want you to consider recognizing it as such and appreciating your life as something extremely precious and rare, the only one you have at this time. And you want to be able to fulfill the promise of that life as much as possible, whether it's to do music or act or be a scientist or be a student, be a teacher or be anybody. You want to be the best you can be. Okay? And you want to be able to do it without confusion, so you have to learn how not to be confused about things, how to get in touch with yourself so that you have true signals coming from your inner, like clear readings of what your inner is telling you. And in order to access that, you have to be quiet. You might have to learn how to meditate. That means be quiet enough to hear something in you that gives you direction and guidance and upliftment. So then you know what you have to do. So you're really getting in touch with your higher self. There is such a thing. See? Each one of us has a command sort of intelligence. You have to access the command intelligence. You have to be in talk with it. You have to talk to it. You have to be in communication with it in yourself. Yeah. It sounds strange, but it's all about you. Your communication with your inner self, the inner masters, some schools call it. The inner guide, other schools call it. Yeah. The inner spirit, other schools call it. And then you have to simplify your life according to what that reveals to you, so that your path is clear. And you don't waste your life as many others have to tragically, sort of, I guess you might say, experience for themselves, cripple themselves or destroy themselves. Then it's too late. Then you're a wannabe. You want to not be a wannabe. You want to not be a wannabe. Know what you have to do on the spot. Know what you want to accomplish, and then clear the way to it. Straight up. Go straight up. Comment now.
So would the, let's say the musician who has the more negative and destructive family karma have perhaps a greater potential versus someone who's raised in a comfort zone and everything is more or less easy?
It depends on the individual. You can be raised in a very wealthy environment, great comfort zone, and still be a great player, be a great person. You can be in ghetto situation and live in the projects as I've had to do in the past, and live at the very, very lowest level of income, eating, stale bread for breakfast, you got a level of poverty, which is good. So you can, from that, use that as fuel to do better and get something going for yourself. And so this is important, to have it bad to do good. You can have tragedy to open your heart to be a good person. Sometimes tragic bell ringing is the best sort of wake-up call. See? And then sometimes too much comfort is to go to bed, go to sleep call. See? Not look, not see, not go beyond yourself, because there's nothing to go, you don't perceive that there's anything to go beyond if you have it all in your own mind. Okay? But we have to give everything up for this ideal. Okay? I'm talking extreme realization and mastery. If you're going to be considered master, then you have to give everything up to the ideal and get to that ideal, then become the ideal. You have to merge with the ideal. That's what mastery is about. You have to become what it is in your mind, in your heart, in your soul, your vision. You have to have the vision, and then complete it as much as it's possible to do that.
And would the same hold true for, let's say, emotional poverty as opposed to financial poverty?
Emotional poverty, on the surface, means a lack of emotion, suffering emotion, a lack of proper balance with emotion. See? Not having feeling, that's emotional poverty. Not having feeling, then you have to create feeling, because that's another thing regarding musicians. They have the music, but they don't have the feeling. See? They don't have the right feeling, and they know they're empty of feeling, and that's a problem for them. Because they say, I want to play, I can play, I got the technique, but I don't have any feeling behind it, I don't have any soul. See? And that means you don't have enough heartbreak. You gotta let somebody bust your heart. And get crying. You gotta access your tear reservoir. You gotta have some flow. See? And how you get to that, how you relate to that is up to you. You gotta be able to access your own cryability. Your own laughability and your own cryability. Get those emotions working for you. And you bring that into your music, because that's what music's about. Music is flow. Music is emotion. But it doesn't mean everybody who plays it feels anything. They hope to feel something. You got a lot of people out here, actually more than you think, that are not into music at all. They can't handle it. Yeah. So they're shut down to feeling and flow at that level, and shut down to music and creativity at that level. They have a different path. I'm not going to say it's worse, because it really depends on what their mission is. They may not need the distraction of beauty or the distraction of creativity that means to them in their life at this time. But we have to appreciate that not everybody is here to do the same thing, or love the same things, see the same things, hear the same things, or feel the same things. Right? With all due respect. We come from different universes, different energies, different planes of consciousness to the earth to learn how to work together with people of a similar intention or karma. See?
For the musician, does, let's say, being in the box of working as an entertainer as opposed to a creative musician, does that have any unique tolls it takes on the individual?
Some people find that to be their heaven, other people find it to be their hell. It really depends on what the entertainment demands of the individual and how much they feel they're compromising of their creativity to be an entertainer. And that's what you feel sometimes when you're giving up too much simply to make a buck or to get a name for yourself. How much are you willing to pay for something you want a part of but you don't want to be owned by? And that's the challenge a creator has. How much are they willing to give up? How much are they willing to keep for themselves in the process? So that they can do a little bit of entertaining, but keep their creativity intact so they don't feel confusion. They don't feel like they're being untrue to themselves. See? There's nothing wrong with entertainment. The great entertainers love what they're doing. And they're willing to, die for what they're doing, in a sense, and many of them do in the process. Now the problem is that after a while you start to feel burnout, you need more energy. And people need more energy, and where are they going to get more energy if they don't have more energy? On the street, it would seem. And that's what they do. They need the energy to fulfill their mission and purpose, like Charlie Parker. And good luck trying to tell Charlie Parker not to do what he was doing, but then good luck trying to do what Charlie Parker did in his company, and he'd crown you. because he knew it wasn't for everybody to do. He didn't want to be imitated. And that's a noble thing to recognize regarding a Charlie Parker type. So no, don't do this, it's bad. I have to do it because I'm in so much pain. And so he needed to do that, but he really didn't want other people to do it because they may not have been as strong as he is. So we're talking now about relative strengths and relative need to do various things in order to make it possible for you to do things. That means study, practice, right connections, ambition, the right drive, right vision. See, and be willing to sacrifice whatever you have to get to your dream, your goal, to the gold medal circle. Go on.
It would seem from what you're saying that the real key is to know oneself enough to find the right avenue. You know?
Hang around with the right peeps, positive types, healthy peeps, who are just as focused as you are. See? Keep the right company. And that helps. Because we are influenceable. We can be motivated, inspired by peeps we surround ourselves with sometimes. And that makes your path easier to accomplish. See? Birds of a feather, can succeed together, in a sense.
That makes sense until you reach the point where you find out maybe that you're different than the ones you've been the same as. For example...
Well, having the same mission is one thing. You're never the same as anybody. And that's, again, a point of view. See, you may be in the same game, but you're a different individual, and that's what you need to respect about yourself and other peeps. They got to do what they got to do, but you have to do what you have to do. So you have to be in touch with your vehicle, your body-mind processing of phenomena, to know what it is that's right for you to do, because you have to feel healthy, you have to feel strong, you have to feel happy, you have to feel positive, you have to feel enlightened, you have to feel inspired. And you're doing what is right, because it's sort of self-inspirational.
So would you find an environment like, studio work, an avenue where you can, fulfill yourself?
Only in my own studio. I have to work in my own studio. Can't work in anybody else's studio. I mean, I've recorded in other people's studio. Better for me to work in my own studio. If you're talking about the studio business, I would say that's a hard grinding gig that can disenfranchise you. It can take you out of, let's say, the level of functioning of creative intelligence. Because everything there is a sealed deal. You play what you're told to play. It's like classical music. It's not that it's dishonorable, but it deprives you. If you're on the creative path, you know that. As soon as somebody puts what they want you to play in front of you, say, no way. I want to write what I want to play, and I'm going to play what I've written. And that's the best way to do it if you can get to that place. And then, of course, you have to bring your standard up, so you better make sure you cultivate yourself to the level of gift, unless you're born with it. If you're born with it, then you have no problems. You got to just open your mouth or play your instrument, and things will happen. The magic's there when you're born with it. But then up to a point, being born with it, as many people are, have it so easy that they fail to develop human traits and character. Because they're musicians, and so they can get away with murder because they're so naturally talented, they become subhuman. And they're, then in a whole different kind of predicament or dilemma. Great talent, subhuman. Great talent, subhuman. And you wonder why they don't know better. Well, they're not trying to know better, because they're playing their art. They're singing their songs. They're doing their dance, subhuman. They're making themselves famous, subhuman. Making a lot of money, subhuman. Billions of dollars, subhuman. No change. Same with other peeps in other businesses. Great at what they do, subhuman level. See? Subhuman. Not taking care of hot business. Yeah, artists can love their audiences, but they're really looking in the mirror. They love themselves. They love themselves being worshipped. No problem, but it's a trap. You have to be careful. You have to be more than self-love. Otherwise you wind up dead in a bad way. Comment.
So for a musician who wants to pursue a creative path that won't support the bills, won't support the lifestyle they want, won't support the family,
That's something you have to choose as an individual. Listen, there is such a thing as integrity, and you have to see that you have some integrity, where you feel responsible for yourself and your actions. And you see the consequences of your actions, up and down, low and high. And you choose a path that is noble, see, respecting of yourself, what you have to do, where you need to work, and with the people you need to work with. Self-respecting. Hey, that's not taken away from your genius, if you have any. That comes with genius, understanding, how to best work something out, where to best do it, with whom to best do it. That's part of the genius component, in fact. Stupidity is not part of the genius component. And yet you see a lot of so-called geniuses really stupid, making major mistakes, needing people to do things for them that they can do better themselves. And that's because there's a confusion, a fundamental confusion there. And then we're talking about a power struggle and then dominating other peeps, groupies or whatever, see? Dominating peeps. That's a whole other trip. That has nothing to do with genius, that's egotism. Genius and egotism, two different realities. You have a genius that's completely egomaniac. You can have a genius that's totally selfless being, happy being. It knows what it needs to do, and it does it naturally, spontaneously, without effort, without confusion. It just is what it is. And I think a lot of people need to get to that place. It's good to have an ideal like that to get to, rather than just become another sort of famous hero. And then the karma that comes with it is nothing. You make money, we're saying, yeah, money will come easy if you're willing to bend over. As much as you're willing to bend over, somebody's willing to oblige you. See? So it's all about what games you're willing to play, and you can make it in the world. You can get up the ladder, right? If you kiss this and kiss that, and eat this and eat that, and suck this and suck that, you can get up to the top. But what are you when you get there? Are you better? Are you worse? That's an individual I guess you might say, determination. But going the path of the masters means you're going to do it alone. You're going to do what you have to do. You're going to be the best you can be. And you're going to have a profound amount of wisdom that comes with it. Everybody who talks to you is going to know that. That you've weathered it alone, you've walked alone, you've become integrated as a human being and a spiritual being, creative being, most importantly, spiritual in terms of creative. And that's the easiest way and the hardest way at the same time. Come in.
Does having plans and a goal inhibit one's ability to trust in and follow spirit?
Well, trust in and follow spirit is a whole different reality. You're never without that. So it's not a matter of finding it, it's really a matter of opening to it. It just is what it is. See, it's a deeper reality, everybody is it. It functions in your conscious life to a certain degree. I mean, it's with you all the time. But your mind can cancel it out. You're not living from that. You're living, searching for that, using it for maybe the wrong reasons. So you don't have the fullness of what that is until you know that it's part of the unconscious and the superconscious. And then you have what is the spiritual. So a certain kind of configuration or alignment of the superconscious and the unconscious. And then you want to somehow to get that into your consciousness, that you're as much as a part of the immaterial, the spiritual universe, right? The silence of the universe, the creative silence of life, as much as you are the noise and, say, the primordial, unconscious nature of the material dimension of the same thing. And then so that finding out what spirit is for you is an important thing. It's not religion, although you can find a certain kind of spiritual element in religion. Some people call it the Holy Spirit, but you wonder if they're really talking about the real Holy Spirit, the whole Spirit itself, or something that favors their cult. So something that favors a cult is not what the Spirit is about. That's a judgment that's made by elders or authorities, and say, no, well, the Spirit is here, as if the Spirit can be dictated to just be one place. Spirit is the universe. The Spirit is the space of the universe and holding the universe together. So the Spirit is not something that's going to be easily put in a pocket of one religion over the other religion. And so we're talking then about politics. You got to get away from the politics of things so that you direct you and it. Where there's art or where there's spiritual reality, it's you and it, and you are it, and that's what you need to come to, that you are it. Same with the art. You are it, but are you open to what it is enough to let it speak for itself musically? Are you willing to let that volume and intensity come through to speak for itself so it has a life of its own in your own case? These are questions. Comment.
You're a great example of a musician who has not compromised to develop a larger audience.
I have no interest in it. It's not that I don't feel responsible to it. No, if they were around, if people liked what I did in a certain way, I'd be happy to play for the peeps. In fact, that's the only time that I play is when the request is there. And there seems to be a pull that seems to be worthy of my effort. I'll go out and do it. But for me to play like I have to work 9 to 5 ordinarily would be false. Because I do have a purpose that is given to me from birth and my genes that has to do with a spiritual idea, a spiritual mission. That means a know-how, a certain level of recognizing the things that we need to pull together to be more peaceful beings and more creative and productive beings. And so that's what the teachings that I've formulated, been given to formulate, all for the peeps, thinking about the physical body, the astral body, all the classic topics, the causal body, the time body, memory body, the dream body, the lower mental body, the middle mental body, right? The intellectual mental body. Then you have the higher mental body, and you have the creative mental body, the spiritual mental body, and it goes on into the infinite, which is what we're talking about, accessing infinite intelligence. Not denying ourselves the right. You're humans, you may as well take from this experience as being an interbeing, right? Being in the lower worlds and being relative to the higher worlds, you know, not in the higher world, but more or less aware of the higher worlds. So we bring the angelic and the human and the beast together so that we have this balance, that we can do what we need to do here. And do it well, take care of our people, and leave good tracks. Feel you're in the heart, working heart to heart with other people. Come in.
So it would seem that you play your music, let's say, for the sake of all beings, and in order to maintain that, you're not willing to compromise by playing it for the sake of some beings.
Well, I can play for some beings. As a healer, I have to heal some beings. But then as a healer, I have to heal all beings. So in healing, I'm healing all beings. In healing one person, I'm healing everybody. Because that person is related to everybody. So we're talking about the universe as being a point, and then no point at the same time. Being here, there, and everywhere, and thus nowhere in particular. So that's what it is. Once you reach that level of realization as a heart being, then it's really huge, huge responsibility. You have to become then what is called a bodhisattva. You want to help other peeps, but not as a strategy, not as an egoic motivation. You know that that's happening because you're open to it. So you're really living as a blessing to all peeps. Say, no, may all beings be happy, may all beings be free. May all beings be gone, say, from suffering.
And conversely, does your music have the potential to harm any beings?
Well, it harms the ignorant. I mean, anything you do and anything you say can harm the ignorant. Even showing up, anywhere you show up, if it's amongst the ignorant, it can bring you a downfall. When you are amongst the knowing, and the knowledgeable, the intelligent, the awakened, then it's your uprising. But if you're around barbarians, you might be their next lunch. If you're around predators, you might be their next lunch. You have to understand, you got to know where to be, who to be with. That's why you need to know yourself and what's right for you. Human, know thyself. That's human. With the potential of spiritual intelligence, creative intelligence to the infinite. Strive for that. It's yours. It's for the taking. Don't be gravity because you're subject to gravity on the earth world. Don't be time because you're subject to time on the earth world. You have to be timeless. You must be timeless, spacious, heartful. And that's free to be creative in an infinite sense. I've always seen that.